Good evening, welcome. It's 7 o'clock, a little bit earlier tonight. It's Leicester Fan TV. My name is Phil. Welcome. Whether you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, wherever in the world you're watching us from. Are you a far-flung fox? Are you in Syston, Wigston, Sydney, Bahamas? Wherever you are, get your comments in. As ever, I can get them on. We are joined very, very shortly by the one and only Iain Hume. You're going to hear a lot of that tonight. But get your questions in, get your comments in. This is your fan show, your views, your questions, no holds barred. Get them in. Yes, good evening. Welcome to everybody. As ever, I can get your comments on screen live. Ross, hopefully be joining us later, puts in a big Hume at the start. I told you there's going to be a lot of this. Carlos, good evening. Where are you watching from, Carlos, today? Hope you're well. Sean is watching, Sean Sarson. Good to have you here as well as ever. Nikursa is watching. How are you? And so is somebody on Facebook. If you're on the Facebook user group, I can't see your names tonight, but please do keep getting your comments in. Let's bring Jamie in from the Fox's Arm straight away to tell us a little bit more about Iain Hume. Good evening, Jamie.
Evening. How the devil are we? Are we good?
Really good. How are you, Jamie? Keeping safe?
I'm good. Trying to, but just fed up of it now. Just want to start back work as soon as possible, but that's another conversation we can have another time.
We can keep people entertained tonight. Talk us through Iain Hume.
Right, yes, as you say, tonight we've got Iain Hume. We signed him from Tranmere in August of 2005. Craig Levine bought him for 500 million, which rise to 500,000. Sorry, 500,000. 500,000, which raised to 750,000. He was Player of the Year in 2007. He was leading scorer in all his 3 seasons here. He played 132 games, scored 34 goals, and from what I remember of him, it was a bit of a pest on the pitch. He liked putting it about a bit, and he was a bit of a terror on there. So I think we ought to bring him on and start asking him some questions.
Let's bring him on. I'm also going to bring Lee Chapman on as well, one of the regular guys. He's going to be reading out as many questions from the fans as possible. So here is Iain Hume. Hi, Ian. You're going to get sick of that.
Hey, 500 million you spent on me. You well and truly got ripped.
Did you get a nice cut of that, Ian? That 500 million?
Not a bloody penny.
That was the Scottish manager. He kept it in his pocket.
It's going to be a good show, this is, lad.
Bit of a shock.
Right, let's start with you, Jamie.
Yeah, talking of Scottish managers, I'm blown away by the mistake. 500 million. I can't believe that now. How did Craig Levine persuade you to come to Leicester from Tranmere?
Didn't really take much persuading, to be honest. I just had a really good season with Tranmere. Just missing out in the playoffs, and when the next season started, we'd signed Chris Greenacre, and Brian Little was the manager. Obviously, you guys all know Brian Little. He pulled me aside at the start and said, "Listen, we've got a lot of interest in you." At the time, it was only really Preston who were pushing it, but then late on in the window, Leicester came in, and Craig Levine used to be a hero of mine at Hearts because my family's all Hearts season ticket holders, and I was born in Edinburgh, obviously, and I knew who he was. He was a captain of the club and a bit of a legend up there. And when he came in, and obviously you guys had just sold Connolly to Wigan, was it? And he just said, "Listen," he goes, "Okay, it's big shoes to fill because he's a natural goal scorer." He goes, "But I think you've got a bit about you, and you'll be a good addition to our squad," which was obviously changing so much. Obviously, you guys are changing the wage bill and dropping down from the Prem, and I think there was only Tiato, Dubs, and maybe Jason Wilcox left from the Premier League squad, really, from the proper Premier League players. So he was trying to really evolve the squad, and it was a club in transition at the time, and I think adding a young, I was bloody young back then, wasn't I? Adding a young player like himself, but I was hungry, and he knew I was on the rise at the time and brought me in. And I'd like to think I did quite well over the 3 years. I think I could have done a bit more, but it was one of those. It was didn't take much persuasion because Leicester had always been a club that had been in the Premier League and having just opened the Walker Stadium a couple of seasons before, and the training ground was decent, and the players that were still on the books and that they were adding was a no-brainer for me at the time.
I think, Ian, one of the reasons the fans took to you so much at Leicester was because of your hunger. That came across clearly on the pitch. You were like a terrier out there. You sweated blood and tears. It appeared from the fans' point of view. So I think that was one of the biggest reasons fans took to you at the time.
I was a bit of an angry elf, wasn't I? The thing is, I do score goals, but I'm not a natural goal scorer. I'm not a David Connolly. I'm not someone who's going to get you 20, 25 goals a season every season. But, I'm good for a good 10 or 15 a season, and you're going to get everything out of me. At the end of the day, I walk off the pitch and I'm dead to the world for a couple of days, but that's what was always a part and always has been and always would have been a part of my career. So I've had the same affiliation and same relationship with fans at every club I've played at because of that. Not
it's
because
what fans. It's what fans love, Ian. That's the thing, isn't it, chappers?
Yeah, I've been trying to get the goal up that you banged in against. I think it was Watford, wasn't it, when you got goal of the season?
In off the bar.
Yeah, I've been trying to find that. I cannot find it for my life on YouTube. I'm surprised.
To be honest,
was YouTube about it?
I've been trying to get a hold of. All right, yeah. No, I'm not that bloody old. No, I've been trying to get a hold of somebody at the club and trying to get highlights of my time there, because there are some goals that I remember, yet I can't put a video to it.
Yeah.
Like I remember, I think I'd gone 19 games without a goal. Matty Fryatt laid me through and I scored, and it was in the old yellow kit, and I remember scoring that, but I've still never seen a picture of it. Like 19 games without a goal.
Yeah.
I finally got that off my back and scored, and I think we won down there 1-0 or something like that. I think we scored early. It was a horrendous game. Is it Layer Road, their old ground? And
yeah, Colchester.
It was a horrific game of football.
But you got your goal.
It was
you got your goal.
That was it, and we got the win. And it was when we were. I think it was the end of the first season I joined, and we were fighting relegation. And Matty and me, we just created quite a good little partnership at the time. And we had that game. We had Brighton away. We had sort of Southend away, things like that. And I remember the goals and I remember scoring them. I just can't seem to ever get a picture of them up or a video of them up. So I guess, showing my bloody age there, because there wasn't as much social media about and people saying everything.
Everything was on VHS then, weren't it? On a videotape at the end of the season.
Yeah. I think we'd just come out with DVDs then.
Okay. A question for you from one of the fans. Harry Chetwynd has asked, what was Matty Fryatt like to partner with? I can imagine it was good fun with Matty Fryatt.
It was brilliant. And yeah, I remember the day he signed. When we signed him from Walsall, he was on fire there. I think before Christmas he'd scored 14 goals or something. And you had me, Elvis Hammond, Mark de Vries, and Dion Dublin. Craig was like bringing in a new fresh face, and I remember him showing up the first day he signed in horrific gear. I think he came in a pink shirt with a white tie or something like that. Like the lads were all hammering him, and it was just as soon as he broke into the team, and we actually had a bit of stability and stopped changing. Like he was changing the strikers every week, and it was. Like I'd play left wing one week up front, the next week then it would be Elvis up front and Mark up front, and it was constant changing. And unfortunately, as soon as Craig left, I think it was February. Craig left, end of February, early March, and me and Matty started playing it. I think I'm not saying we were better than the rest, but the fact that we had a stable squad and a stable front two, we were able to build on that. And I think in the last something like 10 games or something, I think we scored 6 or 7 goals each. And we really worked off each other because we knew if we, like, listen, Matty's an outright goal scorer. Always was. People would question his build-up play at times, but you knew if you got him half a chance inside the 18-yard box, he was hitting the target. And I think that was a perfect foil for me because I love doing the dirty work. I love doing the challenging centre ass for headers and 50-50s. And Matty, although he'll do it, he thrived off working off the shoulder and getting into those positions to score goals. And I think that was where we thrived. And at the end of that season, I think that was a big part of why we pushed on.
Can you talk to Luke? Oh, go on. Can you talk to us about a little bit Andy King? Because obviously he was there on that final season before you left, and obviously he's technically still part of the Leicester team, but out on loan, I believe, still. What made him so special from being a League One winner, Championship winner, and to a Premier League winner?
It's madness, to be honest. You think about it, and you think about all the young kids who were coming through the academy at the time, and Steve Eagle and John Rudkin, where we're just turning these players out year in, year out. And Kingy came in, and he was in the squad the last season I was there, towards the second half of that season. But he was always a number 6, so he'd always sit in front of the back 4 and get the ball and bop it round. I think the next season when the club dropped into League One, I think that's where he thrived because he had a Richie Wellens beside him. He had somebody who was going to sit and do that, and it allowed Kingy to get forward. And you'd have never thought it back then that Kingy was going to turn into a goal scorer. But he was constantly League One. Him and Matty Fryatt were on flames. Like, it was insane watching you guys. And to see him, like, it couldn't happen to a nicer lad. To see how much he's progressed and what he's achieved, because even he'd tell you then he'd never dreamt of reaching the heights he has. And for him to do it and to continue doing it right now, and obviously playing for Wales and playing in the Euros and all that, it's all that he deserved, because he was a hard worker, but he was really quiet back then, and he was a completely different type of player, and he's developed into something special, and I'm sure he'll forever be in Leicester folklore.
Oh yeah, he's a legend.
Definitely.
That's for certain.
Key to the city.
There's a question from Luke Brady. Was staying at Leicester to play in League One an option, or did the club have to sell you because we went down?
It's a bit of a weird situation, because I don't know if you've looked back at a couple of podcasts I've done over the last couple of months. I've been asked the same question, and we had a big meeting the last season with Ollie, and it was deadline day, and we all had this meeting. Everybody sat down in the gym at the training ground, and he just said, "Listen, is everybody in for the fight? Are we sticking together, or do some of you guys have other agendas?" And every single player to the man put their hand up, said, "I'm here. We're sticking. Nobody's going anywhere." So he goes, "Brilliant. End of meeting. See you tomorrow." Walks out. I drive back up to Loughborough where we lived, and get there. And as soon as I get in the house, I tell my wife, "Listen, nothing's happening. We're staying." Literally finished the sentence to my wife, and my phone rings, and it's Andrew Neville, the secretary, and he's like, "You know what's happening?" I said, "I haven't got a clue. Why? What's going on?" He goes, "No, surely you know." I said, "No, I don't have a clue what's going on. We've just had a meeting with Ollie," and he goes, "Oh, well, the owners accepted a bid for you." And that was out the blue, and I'm like, "Well, nobody's told me or my agent." I said, "And I'm here for the end of the season. I'm not going anywhere." So he hangs up. I call Ollie. I said, "What the hell's going on here?" And I told Ollie, and Ollie goes, "I'll call you back." Calls me back 5 minutes later. He goes, "Listen, Hume," he goes, "I don't know what's happening." He goes, "But the owner just seems to not give a shit." He goes, "If you want to go, you go."
Wow.
So I just said, "Listen, I'm not going any." And like, there was 400 grand that they'd accepted. So I'm like, "No, I'm not. Listen, I told you already. I'm not going. Everyone's told you we're not going. We're going to stay and fight." So roll on the end of the season, and there was some sort of discrepancy in my contract, and I got called in at the end of the season, and they're like, "Listen, you understand your clause in your contract?" And I had my contract on me because they'd said bring it in. So I'd gone in, they're like, oh, well, your wage is cut in half.
Huh.
And I wasn't on massive money. Like, it wasn't, I said, well, we'd literally just signed into our mortgage and all that for another 3 years. And we bumped up the money. I'm like, listen, I can't afford that. I said, I genuinely need to stay on the contract that I'm on. I'm like, oh, well, it says here in the contract. And their contract that they had my signature saying that, yeah, I accept it. The contract I have on file didn't have that. So it was a tough situation because I loved every minute I was there. And the 3 years, apart from obviously Stoke away that last game, I think I showed that I loved it and I was enjoying my football and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you finished you finished individually on a high because you finished the top goal scorer, didn't you, for the club? But obviously, ultimately, we got relegated to League One.
Well, yeah, well, that's the thing. It's a team thing, isn't it? And obviously, regardless, if I'd scored 20 goals and we still went down, it wouldn't have made any difference. I know that, but I thought I'd done enough, and I'm speaking to other players who ultimately ended up going as well. They've been offered to stay on the contracts without cutting the wages, and like one of them told me face to face, he's like, "Listen, yeah, they called me in, ask him."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I spoke to the club and said, listen, I understand you've done that with another player. If you could do that with me, I'd be over the moon, and I'd be more than happy." I still have 2 years left on my deal because I'd re-signed at the end of the season before, and they're like, "No, well, we haven't offered anybody that." I'm kind of like, well, either you're lying to me or they're lying to me. And they had no reason the player had no reason to lie to me because he's a good friend.
Yeah, I mean, you're still a young lad there as well. Really, you're still a young lad. Why would they do that? If you're the top goal scorer, that's weird.
Yeah, I didn't understand it, but at the end of the day, you had Matty still there, you had Stevie Howard still there.
Yeah.
Did Barry Hale stay the next season as well?
Yes, he did. Yes, Barry Hales. Yes, he didn't have a lot to do in that League One, but he did stay. Yes.
But that was it, and obviously Ollie wasn't sure whether he was staying or going, and he hadn't quite decided then, and then it ended up being just a matter of, well, listen, I've got to go. Like, if you can get whatever, and they ended up, in fairness, after accepting, it was a bit of a mad one. After accepting 400 grand in the January, ended up getting 1.2 after getting relegated. Was a bit of good business by them in a way.
Ian, how was it under Ian Holloway? Because he's obviously a joker in the pack. How was he as a boss? You got to see the real Ollie. His banter was brilliant. No, like, seriously, and his training was decent as well. And I just like to see the success he went on to from there, going to Blackpool, and obviously the unthinkable getting Blackpool to the Premier League. It showed how good a coach he could be, and he was doing it with Plymouth before he joined Leicester. Yeah, I just think he was given far too much at one point. Like, it was a big jump. Leicester was a massive club at the time with a massive budget, but then he gets told to spend half of that budget clearing decks. So he ended up having to get rid of players who were brought in the year before or the summer before, and I think he ended up spending a couple million paying up contracts in the January. So bringing in Matty Oakley and Stevie Howard was a great move in my eyes because they were ultimate pros. Yeah. But then the rest of the money that he had to spend getting rid of players that he didn't need or want. And it was a big ask for him. And I think if he'd possibly had it from the start of the season, I think it could have been different. But again, it's easy to say that now, and you look back, and even then, the players we had on our books, we should never have been in that situation. And I think that's still one of the biggest downsides of my career and my involvement was the relegation.
Yeah, go on, Phil.
Well, I was going to say, obviously Leicester fans look back on it. At the day I was there at Stoke away in the rain, it was a bloody awful game. It felt like on that day, even on that day, I thought we were going to escape, to be fair, because like you say, all the way through, especially the running, it was just, we had the Sheffield Wednesday game, I think the game before at home, massive crowd that day, and it just didn't happen, Ian, and the fans couldn't really fathom it out. It probably had to happen in the end.
Yeah, it was. Hey, listen, you guys look at the history now, and we went down for the club to regroup and
Yes,
definitely.
look at where the club, and it's horrible on a personal standpoint for me being involved in that, but in the long term, it has ended up being the best thing because it got a lot of money through the door for the club through sales, through Steers, myself, Gaz McCauley, etc., etc. But it was still horrible. Like, that Stoke game was a bad game, but we still deserved to beat them.
Yes,
and
we should have won.
Make it even worse.
Yeah.
I think it was
Carlo Nash's save right in front of you guys off me.
Yeah.
It got him another year at the club.
It did, and I think it was Richard Stearman had a header, like with a few minutes to go at the corner. It was just like, yes. Anyway, let's move on.
That moment though, I think apart from the Vishai tragedy that happened only 2 years ago, I think that was at the lowest point of Leicester City's history. And obviously that's been overtaken by what happened to Vishai himself. But I mean, let's just talk about where you moved to. Obviously, you went to Barnsley, and you got a goal, didn't you, within 5 minutes of playing? Is that right?
Yeah, my debut at QPR, I think it was 11 minutes or something like that. I scored, and it was a great start to it. And then coincided with getting sent off in my home debut, so it was it was kind of a anticlimax. Within a week, I was going down there. Okay, we got beat by QPR, but a great way for me personally to start off and scored a goal, and then it ends up coming back home. And after I think it was an hour, I got sent off. So it was a turbulent time at Barnsley. And
did they look after you after the injury?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
A lot of fans here want to ask you about that injury as well.
I didn't want to bring it up, but at the same time, a lot of fans have asked that. So,
thing is, it is what it is, and I've always looked at it the same way: as a player breaks his leg, a player does his ACL, whatever. It's an unfortunate event that's happened in somebody's career, and for mine, it just happened to be my skull. Like, it was a tough one to take at the time, but I had the right people around me, and the physio, the medical side, apart from the club doctor at Barnsley, were all brilliant with me. And they got me back to health as soon as possible. I was back running or jogging with them just after Christmas, so just over a month after it happened, I was back jogging, and I was back over training with the club and the physio 1-to-1. I think it was mid-February, give or take, and then full training. I was back, I think middle of March. So it was then just red tape to get through, and that was the biggest ball ache, was getting through the red tape.
Was it an elbow or clash of heads? I can't remember.
It was an elbow,
mate. It was an elbow, mate. It was
just
if it was
a
on
blatant elbow.
I remember. Yeah, it was nasty, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Listen, he meant to hit me. He didn't mean to do it.
Oh, blimey.
To the extent he did. But he's meant to leave a mark, and obviously he's left a mark.
Jeez.
Oh, Jesus.
But it's one of those. It's happened. It's what, 12 years now, coming up 12 years. So it's part of history. It's a part of my story through my career, and just move on with it. And unfortunately, a lot of people to this day still ask the same question: is your head okay? And I do think it had a detrimental effect on my career. But again, it's one of those things. It's part of the story.
You can tell that the Leicester fans are concerned though over it, even to this day, because you could just see the comments and stuff. So, it's.
But the amount of letters and emails and all that got sent into the club by Leicester fans, and not in fairness, all the clubs I've been at, but not just that, the whole football community.
Yeah.
The amount of, like, I got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails and letters, and I think there was a couple. Like the big papers, the bloody classroom papers, the big huge ones. Loads of them signed by Preston fans and Leicester fans, and they were all sent into the club by mail. And to be honest, they got brought up to me in the hospital, and I was only in the hospital for a week, but the amount of affection shown by the football community was brilliant, and obviously my former club's a little bit more so than others.
Yeah.
Ian, you also, part of your career as a player was very much the fact you made, I think, over 40 appearances for Canada. Now we can hear there's a Canadian twang in your voice, but you said your folks are from like what do you say, Hearts supporters?
Yeah, like my family's all from Edinburgh, but I grew up in Canada, so I spent 14 years in Canada. But obviously I've been over in the UK now, coming up 21 years in September. So I'm a mongrel. My accent is well and truly all over the place. It has, depending on who I'm talking to and how many alcoholic beverages are down me, it changes.
What was some of the highlights for playing for the Canadian international team, though?
Just pulling on the jersey, to be honest. It's always been the same. And under 20s, I played in 2 World Cups, and so I played in Argentina. Got to play against the likes of Adriano, Kaká.
Wow.
Went to UAE in 2003, and played against Iniesta, Dani Alves.
Whoa.
These like players who, like Iniesta, I think we lost in the quarterfinals to Spain, and both of us are on the score sheet, and that's something that I've got.
Yeah,
it's a photo I've got saved. And this was before he broke into the Barca squad. Was Hume and Iniesta on the same score sheet?
That's mad.
That's something. Who knew he was going to end up being probably top 5 midfielders to ever play the game
all day long.
Ben, just if you put this question, sorry.
No,
go on, Jamie.
Oh God, I was going to. Ben's put a question up a couple of times now about you. You played under, I think, about 3 or 4 managers at Leicester. Was there any particular one you got on better with than you? So did you have a favourite, and did you have a least favourite manager while you were at
just
Leicester?
3 or 4? Just 3 or 4. I think I went through the whole lot.
How many was it? Ian?
How many was it?
Oh well, we had Craig Levein, Rob Kelly, Nigel Worthington, Martin Allen, Gary Megson. Ian Holloway.
Jesus!
I can't even.
I forgot all about that.
That's 6.
The best one for me was Rob Kelly. I got on really well with Rob, and he had a trust in myself and Matty, and that was, I think, one of the things that allowed both of us to excel. Was he trusted us? We had a bad game, we were still playing the next game. We'd get a goal and warrant our choice in the side. I think on the same note, Nigel Worthington coming in, I think it was brilliant. He was hard, like his training was solid, and it was a very physical training. But I think he was my type of manager, to be honest. He worked us to the bone, and I think we had a really good run under him. Like, what was he only involved for 10 matches or something? And he just had to keep us up when Rob Kelly got the sack. And then I think he went on to take over Northern Ireland, didn't he?
Yeah.
So it was those 2 managers. I think Rob stands out because obviously I spent more time with him. And he was there from day one, so he was assistant coach to Craig Levein. So he had me from the day Craig brought me through the door, and we worked a lot because I was in and out the side all the time, because we had those players in and around, like Mark Reese and all that. They were all playing. Elvis was playing. So we were constantly in and out, but I worked a lot with Rob on the side. And then he took over, and me and Matty flourished.
Should we ask you about Martin Allen, Mad Dog Martin Allen?
Yeah, go on. Yeah, go on.
He honestly, he's a top man. Like,
we've had him on. We
chatted with him the other week. He was great fun.
He's
bonkers. He is absolutely bonkers. But he wasn't the mad dog that everyone told us about before he came in. So what you'd heard about him when he was at MK Dons and that, he comes into us, and it was a little bit different. He still tried to have the same effect, but it wasn't as harsh as the stories you've heard, if you know what I mean. And I also think there was a bit too much in his ear from agents and whatnot, bringing in players that had been brought in. And coincidentally, those players ended up getting shipped out in January. So I think we had 5 or 6 players brought in, and they were decent guys, but never played a game for the club.
Ian,
and were on big money.
Ian, Martin Allen told us the reason Leicester won the Premier League is because of him, because he planted. he got the groundsman. He got the groundsman at Beaver Drive training ground to plant flowers and hanging baskets.
That's true.
And that was the start of it.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll give it to him. When we used to go into training, when I first joined, listen, I bowled up in a Vauxhall Astra when I signed, and there was Range Rovers and Bentleys and so on and so forth there, and it was a bit dour to look at. You walked in and it was a bit grey. It was just kind of, and it was bloody wet there all the time as well when I joined. But when, in fairness, when Martin took over, he's like, "Oh, this isn't enough. This isn't." He comes in, he gets his purple and yellow and blues and all that put in the flowers, and the fox put in the side of the field, and then he had a big team barbecue. So we had 30, 40 players, all their wives and kids and all that, bouncy castles, barbecues, and he had it feeling inviting. It did change the way it was set up, and it did help us. Like we celebrate. We scored a goal, and it was mandatory. Every player, bar the goalkeeper, had to celebrate.
Yeah,
and that was pre-season. That was when the season started. Like, if you do see that Watford goal that I scored, you watch the celebrations. Every single player was up celebrating.
Yeah,
and that was how we had it. And
team spirit.
He did breed a team spirit there, and I just think there was a lot of players, like I said, no disrespect to them, that came in that weren't quite at the level that we needed to better ourselves. And like I said, coincidentally ended up getting paid up in the January.
Yeah. Lee, have you got a final question for us?
Yeah, there's just a couple from the fans, and I think we'll wrap it up. Andy Medhurst has asked you, what are you actually up to these days?
Well, at the minute, just over a year ago, I finished playing in India. That was my 5th season out there. I came back with the hope of signing over here somewhere, hopefully finishing my career off over here. And I just seemed to be a bit too old and a bit too much of what people wanted or what they didn't want, coincidentally. So I've been waiting, hoping for a club over the last season, and nothing ever happened. And now all this is kicked in, and it looks like it's unofficially the end of it for me. And, well, near enough official, but unofficially retired at the minute. And I think it's moving on to coaching. I've done my up to my UEFA B license. Hoping to look and get on my A license after I've got a bit of experience under my belt, and then just see where that takes me, because I don't think I'll ever be out of the game. It's drilled into me from a very young age, and it's something. I'm kind of a football geek, so
yeah,
it's something I'm gonna have to stay involved in.
Fantastic. Chappers, one more.
The current Leicester side. What's your take on how good they are, and how far can we actually go as a team, as a club?
Can you go further than what you've already done?
Well,
Champions League winners.
Yeah, you know.
I'm a Liverpool fan. I'm sorry, guys. So this season, if it went on, no, you're not going any further. No, but listen, what the club's achieved was far beyond any expectations. And to get in the Champions League, and this year, the way they performed again, Brendan Rodgers come in, it's a different style play again to what was there. And you think you guys win the league with Drinkwater and Kante, you get rid of them, you have Ndidi through now and James Maddison, and it's promising. And you think he's only going to get backed. He's going to bring in his own players now. Hopefully they're the quality that's going to help the club push on again. It's a massive ask to try and push on and compete with the clubs that they're doing. Okay, Leicester won the league a couple of years ago, but you look at the clubs and the finances that they're trying to compete with, and being realistic, possibly overachieving again. But it's brilliant to watch. It's great football to watch, and James Vardy just he's not getting any older, is he? Like, the guy he's like bloody Pete. He's like Peter Pan. The guy just keeps producing year in, year out.
He is the Benjamin Button of football, isn't he?
But it's madness. Like, how is this guy not playing more for England? I know he's retired now.
We won't go there.
but like he's producing it week in, week out, and it's.
I bet you'd love to play
it just-
alongside him, wouldn't you?
Oh, that would have been horrible to play against, wouldn't it? Like you think about that. Me when I was at the club, and himself the way he played when he joined the club. I don't think centre halves would have been able to sit down for a week.
It would have been a great pairing.
Like it's no, it would have been. See, he's the type of. See, we should have signed. You guys shouldn't have signed him. We should have signed him at Preston. We got offered him for pennies.
He's only 3 years younger than you, mate. He's only 3 years younger than you. It's mad.
Well,
it's
that's
mad.
it. Like we got offered him at Preston. Was he at Halifax at the time?
I think so. Yeah.
So yeah.
Like we got offered him for proper pennies, and the owner at the time, or the chairman at the time at Preston, was like, "Oh, we're not going to take any more risks on non-league players." He ended up going to Fleetwood.
Yeah, didn't you go to Fleetwood? Didn't you go to Fleetwood for a game?
Yeah, that was I went there on loan when Graham Alexander was in charge, and they were pushing for playoffs, and he brought me in there to help produce somehow, and they scored one goal in what 7 games or something like that. But we ended up getting promoted through Wembley through the playoff final, and it was listen, with Jamie Vardy, the he's exactly what the football pyramid is.
Yes,
he is that Cinderella story, and the fact that he keeps doing what he's doing and keeps doing it year in, year out, and turned down the opportunity to leave the club, and he could have gone to Arsenal. That was well publicised and all that, but stays on at Leicester after winning the league. And hey, the guy's been an absolute phenomenon at the club, and I think not just the club, in English football, he's what young players should be looking at and dreaming about doing.
Ian, before we let you go, because we know you've got to move on, just one final question, which is obviously the current league. Will it start again? Won't it start again? You've admitted you're a Liverpool fan. I think most. So, and let's remind you that Liverpool have never won the Premier League. But what, in all fairness, obviously safety first, Ian. How would you finish off this season? What do you think is going to happen, or what should happen?
Safety first is 100%, but I don't see the rush. I'll be honest with you. I don't see the rush. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why are they pushing to? Oh, we need to have it done next month. No, you don't. Like, you just need to push back next season for a month. Like, the only stumbling block is players' contracts. But realistically, you've got players on 100 grand a week, 200 grand a week, and they've been getting that money for nothing for the last 2 months. Is there any reason why they can't extend that for a month and maybe finish off the season? And the behind closed doors, I know it's hard, but the only teams that seem to be arguing are the teams that are fighting relegation.
Yes, and we all know why.
Oh, 100%, because let's null and void the season. How can you null and void the season? How can Premier League clubs, or not just Premier League clubs, how can football clubs null and void a season when they've spent, the lower they are, hundreds of thousands, and higher it goes to hundreds of millions? How can you warrant spending hundreds of millions for nothing? Who makes the Champions League? The only team that's qualified is Liverpool.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what Leicester fans would be interested in.
Yeah, just play it behind closed doors. And what's the problem with playing 2 games a week? If the Champions League's finished and the Europa League's going to be finished, they're going to cancel them almost certainly. But the leagues, like Germany's starting up this week, Spain's planning to start up in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think Italy's announced as well that they are on 16th.
Exactly.
13th of June.
Well, there you go. Like, what's the problem with playing behind closed doors? Just play at a neutral venue and go play at Wembley. There's hotels around Wembley. You get the teams in there. You get the teams quarantined for a couple of weeks in there. Do it that way and get the season done in a month.
Yeah, I think you're speaking like most fans, Ian, are thinking exactly the same. But there is no rush.
No, well, and the thing is with the Prem, like, they cancelled the French league. PSG were winning the league by 22 points or something like that, and I think they conceded 18 goals all season. They were never going to lose it, so they got the trophy. They cancelled the Dutch league. They had 9 games to go. The teams were joined. Fine. Premier League, the investment from the world in the Premier League, the Spanish league, the German and Italian leagues, the investment from China, US, South America, all that is got to be borderline billions. There's no way, I think, physically feasible that they can cancel the leagues and not have massive repercussions.
I think you're right, Ian. And we're going to leave it there. Ian, I know you're a fan of your big Hume, as Leicester fans do.
I was just about to ask that.
Can we get you to do one?
Well, hey, I remember the first game I heard that when Chef Wed at home was my first game. And I hit the post, and my parents were there, and my wife and her family. And that the first time they used it, and they were asking, why the hell are they booing him already? like what's he done wrong? But no, it's like we said before, and I could kind of avoid it when I was playing, because if I had a shiter, I just thought they were giving my name a little shout. But it was one of those. I loved it at the time because I knew it was majority of the time, apart from when we got beat, it was about me doing something well. So
yeah.
Right, I think we'll all do it together. We'll all do
it together.
Yeah. Right, thanks for coming on anyway, Ian. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining us and stuff. It's been a pleasure.
No, a pleasure. It's one of the first things I've done for the Foxes since I left the club. I've not been contacted for many things, so it's an absolute pleasure.
The fans still love you, mate.
You ready?
3, 2, 1.
Thanks, Ian.
Madness.
Thank you.
All right,
cheers.
guys. Thanks very much for having
me.
me.
Thanks a lot, Ian.
Take care.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Ian. Brilliant. I'm going to let you go. Well, that was brilliant to have Ian Hume. Some great views as well on football then, football now.
Listen,
absolutely fantastic.
I've been messaging Lee Philpott, so we're going to try and
get. Has he answered?
I'm going to try and get him on.
Fantastic.
He's just followed me back and stuff. So
there's
I know. Has he finally got? I've messaged him loads of times. He hasn't answered me at all. So hopefully, chappy.
Brilliant. Yeah. All right, listen, lads. Let's wrap this up. Thanks, Jamie.
Been photobombed by the missus now.
Thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Karen.
See you later.
See you soon. Cheers.
See everyone.
Chappers.
Take care, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're nearly at 5,000 now. Follow us at Leicester Fan TV on all social platforms. See you all soon.
Thanks, Chappers, for doing that. Thanks in particular to Ian Hume. Thanks everybody for watching. Don't forget, go and follow us, like Chappers says. Follow these businesses as well because they help us out. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.